that when you grow up, you don't become the version of yourself your younger self wanted you to be, but you become the person your younger self would run to in need of help. Sometime between that picture and today, fear has learned to take over and speak louder than instinct. Worrying, second-guessing, overthinking have all become everyday habits for all of us. But what if I told you that the most powerful form of control is not one you can have over others, but over yourself? What if I told you that even Neil Armstrong must have had to take a step back before taking one giant leap for mankind? If you've seen one of my favorite TV shows, my guilty pleasure, The Mentalist, you know Patrick Jane. Patrick Jane is a man who walks into a room and who instantly knows who's lying, who's nervous, and who's just pretending. He doesn't read minds. He reads people, their habits, their micro-expressions, their patterns. And every time Patrick Jane showed up on my screen, I couldn't help but wonder, how does one become so aware? We often try to analyze situations and their outcomes, but most of us don't get the same result. That is because we don't analyze ourselves first. In the 9th grade, my friends and I entered a competition. After weeks of the blood, sweat, and tears we put into preparing for that competition, we were confident, we were certain that we would make it to the national level. This event, this competition in my head wasn't just a competition. It never was. It was proof. Proof that I was going to make it. Proof that I was capable. Proof that high school was finally going to begin for me. We were so sure until we lost. And it wasn't like we came 4th place out of 5 teams, don't get me wrong. We lost to a tiebreaker for the first place by a mere half point. The event I was certain would mark the beginning of the chapter of my high school achievements ended up doing the exact opposite. It ended up being a page of the chapter I wanted to rip out. I still remember myself holding that participation certificate and it feeling heavier than any trophy I'd imagined holding, lifting. Soon after, I became overly upset, overly loud. I talked too much, I joked too much, just to avoid sitting with how small I was feeling. And this emotion, this feeling, it stung. It exposed me. It made me realize, it made me sit with the fact that maybe I wasn't as good as I thought I was. But when I managed to strip the noise, the expectations, and the urgency to move forward, what remained was something quieter, something internal, my inner compass. And my compass made it very clear to me that before I needed direction, I needed honesty. You know, even science explains this. Neurologists around the world suggest that self-reflection activates different brain networks than goal-chasing, which means that we have to look inward before we move forward effectively. And reading this got me thinking, how would someone who hasn't lost a science and innovation competition to a tiebreaker for the first place be able to step into self-awareness? And the answer is actually simple. It's not easy, but it's simple. They would have to listen. And not only listen like listen, hear, observe, but listen like look at reactions, identify repeated moments, sit with discomfort, test old beliefs, engage honestly, and navigate forward. Let me elaborate. There is, in fact, an entire process to consciously be in tune with your subconscious, your inner compass. It's known as achieving balanced self-awareness. On the way to self-awareness, we go through 6 phases. The first phase is awakening of the consciousness. In this period of time, I realized that I had been living my life on autopilot, doing things out of habit, survival, or expectation. For a long time now, my days have looked exactly the same. Wake up, uniform, school, classes, homework, sleep. It sounded a lot like rinse, wash, repeat. Realizing this urged me to watch my life instead of living it. By this point, basic awareness had clicked in. And once it did, I could not stop it. It only sharpened. This is when you enter phase 2. Phase 2 is noticing patterns. Now, when I say noticing patterns, I mean not only in situations and events, but in reactions and emotions. I noticed that I had been saying yes a lot more then, before I even checked with myself. Another repeated reaction I noticed was how I felt tired after pretending I wasn't. It was these same situations, triggering the same responses, the same coping mechanisms just showing up in different forms. These patterns gave emotional context. And theoretically, when emotions have context, they stop feeling chaotic. When my emotions stopped feeling chaotic, I knew I entered the third phase. The third phase is emotions making sense. When I look back, the third phase is when my emotions stopped feeling chaotic and overwhelming and more revealing, like they were signals more than disruptions. Unfortunately, when emotions get context, they lead to harder questions. And when a question like this pops into your head, you know you've entered the fourth phase. The fourth phase is challenging old narratives. A quick question, who here thinks they're self-aware? Honestly, raise your hands. Okay, yeah, that's a good number. I did too. So much so that I began questioning the beliefs and ways I once accepted without thought. About success, about failure, about identity, about worth. I thought I could shut myself on and off, on command, even if it was minutely. Contrary to what I thought, growth requires us to let go of versions of ourselves we want to keep safe. Because awareness without compassion just becomes pressure. After all, Kelly Clarkson did once rightly sing, "What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Stand a little taller. Doesn't mean I'm lonely when I'm alone." I didn't sing it, but I have the tune in my head. Over time and wisdom, the fifth phase is stepped onto. The fifth phase is when life starts to align with your skills and personality, life's alignment. Now I started noticing that I said yes a lot more. But this time, it wasn't because it was impulsive, but because it was clearer. I started noticing more patterns of myself. This time, not like it was in phase 2, but because my life started to align with myself once again. My inner compass is not just a navigation tool. It's a mirror. It's a mirror which shows a confident face whose life aligns with her skills and personality. Alignment isn't about control. It's about trust. In this phase, I can say, I understand why this happened, but I'm still upset that it happened, and I'm willing to give myself time to move on. Gradually and naturally, we enter the sixth phase, the final phase. The sixth phase is living life in balanced self-control and being connected to your inner compass. This is the time when I tell myself That navigating new frontiers is not always about charting new maps, no. Not until I've turned around and I've looked at myself right where I lost her. If I could go back to that sweet and innocent version of myself, and I could talk to her and see her holding that participation certificate, I would not tell her, oh, come on, relax. There are many more competitions you're going to win. It's true. But at that time, at that moment, it's an unnecessary statement. Instead, I would tell her, it's okay. Learn from this loss. Because both losses and moments of success help recalibrate your compass. Because sometimes the bravest frontier we will face, is coming home to ourselves. Thank you.